So what is the road ahead? What does this mean for India and the subcontinent? Will Taliban 2.0 be as deadly as Taliban 1.0? Will the Taliban get acceptability or face global sanctions? Has the myth of the good and the bad Taliban finally been busted? What does this really mean, as I said, for India as well? Just some of the questions that we'll raise. Ashok Sajanhar is the former diplomat, senior diplomat who's looked at these issues carefully. Sadia Khan is leader of the PMLN, Pakistan's leading opposition party. Sadanand Dume, fellow American Enterprise Institute, joining me. Appreciate all of you joining us. Let's turn first to India as well. Ashok Sajanhar, your sense from the rise of the Taliban and their complete takeover. We are told there are celebrations in Pakistan at the moment, in Rawalpindi, in GHQ. How do you see this? Do you see this as a moment where India in particular must become wary of what could be a potential Afghan, Pak, even China axis? So you're on mute. If you can put on your... Can you...
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes, okay. Thank you. Sorry for being...
Not a worry.
Yeah. So, no, what I was saying is, yes, India needs to be wary and, commenting on what you just said, that there is jubilation and rejoicing in different cities of Pakistan, I'm not surprised. Because, of course, they would see it as a vindication of their foreign policy. They have pursued this policy of providing safe havens to the Taliban, supporting them, funding them, training them. Their families are living there. So they would find it as validation that whatever they had sought to achieve 20 years ago, that has been achieved. They would hope that Taliban in Kabul would be a regime that is, not only friendly to Pakistan, but also heavily under the influence. I don't want to use any other stronger words, but that they would do whatever the Pakistan government desires them to do. And but I think there are problems in that. There might be this rejoicing, but there are so very many elements, Rajdeep, in the Taliban who are fighting along with them. They were fighting the Afghan National Security Forces, like the Al-Qaeda, like ISIS. They have put in Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed also, but also Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan and also Lashkar-e-Jhangvi, which are opposed to the Pakistani establishment in Islamabad. So I think that will create problems for them. There is also, there are also militants and terrorists belonging to the ETIM, the East Turkestan Islamic Movement. And although the Taliban and Mullah Ghani Baradar might have signed an agreement with Wangi that they will ensure that the ETIM does not operate in Xinjiang, where there is a genocide of sorts going on, a concentration camp housing millions of Uyghur Muslims. But I don't know how well or how far they will be able to control ETIM and some of the other, as I mentioned, Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, which would be operating against them. The last point, Rajdeep, here is the Durand line could also become, active. As far as India is concerned, what we need is a stable, a peaceful, sovereign, a democratic, independent Afghanistan. And there we do not want any ungoverned spaces where these terrorists, whether from the Jaish or Lashkar or the others, are able to regroup, train, and launch attacks against India. And the final point is that this victory of the Taliban, which is a terrorist force, which is proscribed as a terrorist organization under the United Nations. The fact that it has won control and it has been legitimized, so to say, by many of the powers in over and above the former government of Afghanistan, that is Ashraf Ghani's government there. I think that has given a great deal of legitimacy and relevance, and that is definitely going to inspire many other radical Islamist forces in the region and also in India.
So that's the worry in a way. And before, Sadia Khan, you're a leader of the Pakistan League, Nawaz. Here is Imran Khan, Pakistan's Prime Minister, welcoming the ascent of Taliban, saying its slavery has been removed. The fact is that what Imran Khan doesn't perhaps realize is that you're sort of once again leaving open this area to further destabilizing your borders further. There's the Tehreek-e-Pakistan. There are various other groups as well. And we could have a Pakistan once again where terror props up at various points within your country. Is this what you want? You want Islamic radicals to run amok in the region?
See, as a member of PMLN, I want to take serious statement of Prime Minister, which he have been giving previously about Taliban's and right now as well. But if you'll go to the findings of NSA meeting today, you will see what was the stance of Pakistan and now what they have decided about. And from my party and from
we want to understand, does the PMLN support, do you support the ascent of the Taliban, yes or no?
No. Listen, one thing, like we are the victim of Talibanization. You cannot ignore what Taliban have done to school children in Pakistan. And it happened in PMLN's regime. And after that, the PMLN regime, the law and order situation was quite better. We brought them on table. We have arrested many terrorists from northern areas of Pakistan. If you'll see in the KP and other agencies like Waziristan and other areas where they were hiding. Plus, but now the situation is, one thing is very clear to the world, and it should be clear to India as well, that these Talibans who are taking over Afghanistan are not sent by Pakistan. They were already in Afghanistan. Afghanistan is and was.
Ma'am, that defies incredulity. Let's be honest. Why else are the celebrations in GHQ in Rawalpindi?
They were already there. There is no celebration over there. We are working on our policies as well. We are working. What should we do? We are not in favor of terrorism across the border.
That's the worry. This distinction, ma'am.
Pakistan is direct sufferer of this terrorism.
I've heard that. I'm sorry, I've heard this, ma'am.
Neither you nor us cannot ignore the influence of Taliban in Afghanistan right now.
Okay.
Like them or hate them, you have to situation. Pakistan have to make their policies, and we are very clear. We are clear on peace. We are clear that our borders are fenced now. We are not taking refugees. But yes, if India is
let me just go. Let me, ma'am.
They can take refugees.
Okay.
They can help them.
You made your point. You're saying that you support a peaceful transition to power. Okay. Let me bring in Sadanand Dume. Sadanand Dume, President Biden is to address the American people in a few hours from now in India time, 1:15 a.m., 3:45 p.m. Eastern. What can the president say, given that his statements so far are coming to haunt him, especially about Saigon and how he believed that Kabul would resist, where in Vietnam things were very different. Has President Biden's stature, credibility taken a huge hit?
Actually, that's a very good question. And in my view, the short answer is yes. The U.S. has suffered a crushing humiliation in Afghanistan. It is the greatest foreign policy humiliation that the country has suffered since the fall of Saigon in 1975. Mm-hmm. And in some ways, it is even worse. Some of the images that we're seeing out of Kabul and the absolute lack of resistance that we saw from Afghan forces, and also the president's own statements about how this was likely to unfold, being proved completely and dramatically wrong in a matter of weeks. Mm-hmm. So yes, things are bad. I'm pretty sure that what he's going to say on television is something that will in fact resonate with many American people, which is that, look, this is sad, but it's not our problem. We stayed for 20 years. We tried to do what we could. I'm not saying I agree with that view, but I think that is the general view. There was a large body of people supporting Trump who wanted to get out. And for your average American, tragic as though this may be, I think that the broad idea that the U.S. should get out of Afghanistan probably remains popular among American voters.
So are you saying that it will resonate if President Biden says that we withdrew from Afghanistan because of our national interests? They don't really care if the Taliban takes over?
So I think you have to distinguish between foreign policy elites, people who work at think tanks, people who are, understand the world. They would recognize that this is a complete catastrophe. This is a real setback for the US in the region and the world. Your average American, in my view, would not like to see these humiliating photos, right? The embassy built by $700 million, people evacuating it with helicopters. The US poured in $88 billion just to stand up the Afghan army. All that equipment is now with the Taliban. So the average American is obviously not going to be pleased with that, and it'll strengthen the idea that Biden is an incompetent, weak leader leading the country towards decline. But I don't think there's any appetite at all in the United States for sending troops back, right? So this idea that somehow the U.S. could stay longer or put troops in and avert this, I actually think there are very strong arguments that had been made saying this over the past few months and years. But the overwhelming mood in the US is that, look, Afghanistan is not our headache anymore. We're sorry that people are suffering. We've got to go. Again, that's not my view. My view is that the US should have remained with a limited presence. But I think politically, the humiliation will hurt Biden, but I don't think it'll hurt him to the point where US policy will be reversed. This is a done deal. The US is out of Afghanistan.
So therefore, let me ask you, Sadanand, in conclusion, is it seen as a miscalculation as to that the Americans did not anticipate the fall of Kabul as quickly as it has to the Taliban? Or was this in some way part of a deliberate strategy that let's get out of Afghanistan, we're not interested what happens after that?
So in my view, both the original decision to negotiate with the Taliban and get out both the original decision and the actual mechanics of withdrawal were mistakes. I think that for most people in America, they would probably say that the original decision may still have been good to get out, but everybody will agree that the mechanics of the withdrawal have been a complete disaster.
Okay. I get a sense from you all that we are living through these uncertain times. Pakistan faces uncertain times. India looks at Afghanistan with anxiety, as Ambassador said. And as Sadanand, you put it there from the United States, America too seems to have gone with the opinion on the street, not necessarily in foreign policy think tanks. But appreciate all of you joining me and giving us a sense where all of you stand on the issue. Thanks very much.